Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting the like, the subscribe, maybe even that notification bell too, you cheeky so-and-so. And let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from External Love 7071 and says, am I the a-hole for not wanting to pretend to be my twin on her wedding day? I, 30 female, have an identical twin sister, and for the purposes of anonymity, I'll call her Jess. Jess and I look so much alike it can be freaky. At one point when we were still infants, they had to draw a little dot at the bottom of one of our feet so they could keep track of who was who for medical reasons. My mum adored the fact that Jess and I were her cute baby twin girls and treated us as precious dolls who she would frequently dress alike and always make us do things together. At first I didn't mind it at all, well, because it was my normal and I genuinely love my sister. But when we started getting older and I developed my own interests, I would get so frustrated or upset when I either couldn't do something because Jess didn't want to, or the only way that I could do it was if Jess could come with me and vice versa. It sucked because despite our appearances, Jess was the more extroverted twin who liked to go to parties and do sports while I was introverted and artistic. I was always made to do what Jess wanted to do because me not wanting to be social was seen as bad. And the only way that Jess would agree to do/endure my hobbies was if I did her homework or chores. When my parents were divorcing, I was over the moon when my dad agreed to let me live with him in another state, and Jess didn't want to move away from all her friends. My mum cried when I had to tell her I didn't want to live with her, and Jess accused me of hating them. This really wrecked me emotionally, and I almost caved, but my dad got me into therapy, who helped me gather the courage to just leave. I never really did shake off the guilt until around senior year of high school. But I never once regretted my choice because of how liberating I felt by getting to be me. I was slowly able to repair my relationship with my mum and Jess, but Jess and I were never as close as we used to be, and I was honestly fine with that. Fast forward to adulthood, and Jess is engaged to her boyfriend Steve, 36 male, and their wedding is set for this spring. Unfortunately, Jess was recently in a bad accident and her face is going to need to get cosmetic surgery. She has been crying on and off for days over this because there's no way she'll be healed up in time for the wedding. My mum, Steve and I have been trying to console her, but it's not enough. Earlier this week, my mum approached me with the idea of dressing up as Jess and pretending to be her for the ceremony and reception so the pictures will look nice. I was floored and gave a hesitant no because while I do know that this would mean a lot for my sister, I just feel really uncomfortable about it. My mum was upset with me and said that it wasn't a big deal, it was just for the pictures, and asked me if I really wanted to make it so that Jess would have to be reminded of her trauma whenever she had to look at her wedding photos, or just not have any photos at all. Am I the a-hole? So is this going to be the story where mum's the one who's approaching, mum's the one who's saying these things, mum's the one that's come up with this crazy idea of you replacing Jess in her wedding? Whichever turns out to be the case, it's going to be absolutely awful. How's Jess going to feel when she finds out her mum thinks of her this way, that she needs to be replaced in her own wedding to look good for photos or whatever? And the edits and the update in this post were all posted within the same thread, so the comments are replying to the update at the same time. So we'll cover the comments after the full story on this one. So OP continues saying, ETA. Okay, because I've already seen this in 2 other comments, I just wanted to be clear about some things. 1. Jess and Steve's wedding is booked at their dream venue. And if they postpone, which is in about 3 weeks, they won't be able to book it again until around 2025. And families on both sides from coming in from out of state. 2. Apparently between the wedding costs and needing to save up for the cosmetic surgery, Steve and Jess don't have the money to pay for professional Photoshop. 3. We live in America, and as far as I know, since Jess's surgery is purely for cosmetic purposes, health insurance may not cover it all, if any at all. 4. My mum was the only one who actually approached me about this, so I don't know for sure if Jess and Steve know about this idea. And honestly, I'm a little off actually talking to them about this in case they're on board and start to pressure me into agreeing. ETA 2. Sorry for not clarifying. What my mum is proposing that I do is that I wear Jess's wedding dress and she wears whatever I was going to wear. I just stand in for her when it's time to walk down the aisle, do the entrance and the reception, first dance, bouquet toss, and photo time. I wouldn't actually be doing the vows. I gotta say, that left me even more confused about this. So you swapped roles, she's dressed as you, you're dressed as her, you're walking down the aisle, you get to the end of the aisle and you're stood there with the husband, and then you swap over to do the vows, or what? You keep swapping over when there's in front of everyone? I don't understand what's going on. But OP updates the post and says, thanks for all the advice and suggestions, as well as affirmation that I have the right to say no. Still dealing with residual guilt about refusing to do things for my mum. So I reached out to Steve first about suggesting Photoshop, and turns out he and Jess were already considering that before deciding to just postpone the wedding, as Jess is dealing with PTSD from the accident and doesn't believe that she's going to be able to handle the stress of a wedding in 3 weeks. I was so relieved and told Steve that I would be more than happy to help with getting the word out to people that the wedding wasn't happening right now. For the sake of peace and Jess's mental health, I've decided to keep what my mum said about using me as a replacement for the wedding photos to myself for now. Jess is really going through a lot. I feel like this will be like rubbing salt in the wound. So she didn't know that mum was making these suggestions behind her back. That mother is absolutely awful. Imagine discovering that your mother is trying to replace you in your own bloody wedding because of an accident you had, for the photos and all this sort of stuff. My word, I'd be kicking her ass at the wedding for sure. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Oh my word. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. I was going to cover some comments on that one, but I don't think it was necessary after the post. And our next story comes from Sacred420 from the True Off My Chest subreddit. Does come with an update as well. Titled, my wife just told me something that is bothering me. So background info, I 32 male and my wife 30 female, and I have known each other since we were teens. We've been together for 7 years and have been married and committed 5 years. Neither of us is completely straight. We both had relationships with people of varying gender identities in the past, and we both acknowledge and accept that we have a past that's not a problem. Anybody I've had any type of relationship with that she didn't want me to still be friends with, I dropped, including my BFF. She's let me know about people she's had past relationships with that she's still friends with. I've never made her drop them because I trust her. Now onto the pertinent information. Tonight we were playing Cards Against Humanity, and a card says something like, my first kiss was awkward because came up. After we played that round, she mentioned her first kiss was awkward because it was with her childhood best friend, 30 female. And I was surprised and said, wow, I didn't know that. She then told me that she actually lost her virginity to her as well, and I was like, didn't you know we dated for like 3 years? I said, no, why didn't you tell me? She just brushed it off and said, it's no big deal, I just forgot to tell you. I told her I thought it was a big deal because we previously had a conversation about our past relationships that we were still friends with. She made me drop a bunch of my friends. She said she told me about all of the people but just happened to forget to mention a past relationship with her best friend, who she spends a lot of time with, and is even going to spend time alone with on an upcoming trip. I trust her not to cheat on me or do anything out of pocket, and I told her that. But it just bothers me that she thinks it's no big deal that she didn't tell me. She just keeps brushing me off and saying it doesn't matter. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about this situation, but I do know it definitely doesn't feel good. I wish she would just acknowledge that it's valid for me to be upset she didn't tell me, when I know she would be very upset if the roles were reversed. So one of the comments asks OP, they says, so if I understand correctly, she has forced you to end friendships with people you have a sexual and/or romantic history with, and thus the concern here is that she is not holding herself to that same standard. OP responds saying, kind of the concern is just that we were both supposed to have disclosed all of the past sexual/romantic relationships that we still have as friends. And I told her all of mine, even my best friend, and she told me she disclosed all of hers too, but somehow just never told me about this relationship with her best friend or give me a chance to decide if it made me comfortable or not that they were still friends. Some of the additional comments on this one was, why not says, she lied to you, so it's understandable why you are upset. The fact that she didn't disclose 3 years of her life opened up the door for what else isn't she telling me thoughts. I suggest sitting down with her and explaining why you are upset and that it's a big deal to you. You deserve a real explanation on why she admitted that information. Stay Wicked says she's 30 and casually forgot 3 years of her life. She remembered little tidbits in others, but not someone that took up a significant amount of her life that she's still best friends with. She definitely left it out on purpose. Have you ever considered the reason she didn't tell you and wanted you to drop your BFF is because of what she is hiding from you about her BFF? FI Need says your feelings are totally valid, my dude. She might try to brush this off or even gaslight you in some way, so be steady and recognize that you aren't crazy and that's not cool. Brushing off saying it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter to her. She's not thinking in the same context of how you might feel at all, and if anything, she's probably kicking herself in the butt that she let that secret slip. You know your wife better than us, but I hope you can have an honest conversation about the root of this. Kat says, yikes, this is definitely red flag territory. My inclination is to think that this is classic projection situation. Your partner made you give up your BFF because she was concerned about your shared past. Why? Presumably because you might cheat. Maybe because that's what she would do in the same situation. Then OP kindly comes back to update the post and says, first, let me address some things. Thank you very much to all of you who were supportive and offered advice and constructive criticism. To those who just wanted to instigate, nobody asked. My wife is not cheating on me. I will not spy on her with gadgets or apps or use a private investigator. That would be some paranoid and irrational behavior. Thanks for the suggestion though, I guess. My wife is not controlling or manipulative. She never gave me an ultimatum or forced me to drop these people out of my life. I did it willingly because it made her uncomfortable for me to continue my friendship with them, and I love her. Even ending my friendship with my best friend was on me. I knew that she still had feelings and it might hurt my relationship with my wife in the future, so I chose my wife over them. My wife is my new bestie, and she should be. My wife has been cheated on before, which is why I willingly drop people for one. For two, it is also why she has been more distrusting of me than I have of her. She had trust issues when we met, and I knew and accepted that fully. Who doesn't have any issues? My wife is not normally dismissive of my feelings, nor does she often gaslight me. I assume some of you must have missed the part where I commented saying we normally have a very good communication about everything. I never said she forgot that she had a relationship with her best friend, just that she said she forgot to mention it. To those of you who sent me a DM with links to various services of Amazon gadgets, etc., no thanks. For those of you who just sent a DM saying she was cheating or to JKYS, not sure what that means, etc., why? To the people messaging me trying to get me to cheat, what the fuck? Don't prey on married men with relationship issues. To the people who sent me unsolicited pictures, nope, nope, nope. That should be a crime if it isn't already. Now for the update. My wife and I talked things out. She was only dismissive because she was anxious about this and didn't want to have an argument before bed. She has had past abusive relationships and sometimes just goes into fight or flight mode or shuts down because she is afraid of situations where she might be abused, i.e. if her partner thinks she was hiding something. At the time, we originally had a discussion of past partners that were still friends, and she was no longer close with or even really friendly with the person who is now her bestie. They later became close again while her friend was transitioning. But that was years after the discussion, so it's understandable she would forget to mention it. My wife has apologized profusely for how she made me feel. She has decided to get therapy for her past issues. We are also going to go into relationship counseling. My wife has changed the plans for her trip and even offered to drop her best friend if their friendship made me uncomfortable. She also said she was sorry for being so distrustful and told me that if I wanted to reach out to anybody I cut out of my life, I was more than welcome to do so. I love my wife and I'm not willing to just lose faith in her or abandon her over one road bump on a long, happy journey together. Thank you for reading my update. Love and peace to you all. And there was a lot of people, questioning this update because it just doesn't sound good. There was a line that jumped out to me and many others in that one. It was a paragraph where it said, my wife is not normally dismissive of my feelings, nor does she often gaslight me. And it just had me going, oh, holy moly. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the Am I the A-hole subreddit from No Sleep Beauty, who says, Am I the a-hole for letting my sister walk me down the aisle despite my fiance and his family's objections? I, 23 female, was raised by my older half-sister, 32 female. I never met my dad, and our mum OD'd when I was 10, and my sister was 19. My sister's dad was still in her life and was willing to support her, but not me. My sister chose to be my guardian, and her father's family went low contact with her as a result. In order to raise me, she gave up a lot. A relationship with her father, college, her 20s, and so much more. A few months ago, I got engaged, and I told my sister that in addition to being my maid of honor, I also wanted her to be the one to walk me down the aisle. All my life, she's had to fulfill so many roles for me: big sister, mother, father, friend, that it only felt right that those multiple roles be honored on one of the biggest days of my life. My sister was ecstatic, and so was I, but when I brought it up with my fiance, he objected. My future in-laws are very traditional, and my fiance had always expected that his wedding would be a very traditional white wedding. He said it was great that my sister was my maid of honor, but that her having two roles wasn't, and that it wasn't appropriate for her to walk me down the aisle, since that's usually done by a man. Apparently, his family had assumed that my future father-in-law would be the one to give me away, since I don't have any male relatives. I told him that I appreciate his father being willing to fill that role, but the one that made me the person that I am is my sister, and so it's right that she be the one to give me away. It turned into an argument that spreads to my in-laws. My mother-in-law called me a few days ago to say that although she understands how important my sister is to me, there's also my fiance's wedding, and I shouldn't be putting my sister before him on his day. I definitely heard her on that, but this is still important to me. At this point, my sister has even said that she doesn't mind just being the maid of honor, and that she doesn't want to turn my happy day into something stressful. So now it's just me holding out and being stubborn, but I really don't want to concede on this point. Am I being the a-hole? Edit. I did not expect this post to blow up like this, and I haven't been able to read through all of your verdicts and comments yet, but I wanted to clarify on some of the inquiries which I've seen repeated so far. Are the in-laws contributing to the wedding? Yes, in fact, they're paying for about 75% of it, since I'm still in school and don't have the money to put towards a wedding the scale that fiance wanted. Does your fiance have sisters? No, he has two younger brothers. Did he ask your sister for your hand? He did actually. She also helped him custom design the engagement ring. She showed me their group text, and at one point they spent 3 weeks trying to decide between 5 different diamonds. Maybe I should just propose with an infinity gauntlet. It was very sweet and cute. What about when you have children / have you talked about children? Because of a medical condition, I am infertile, though neither of us feel particularly strong urge to be a parents anyway. But we also know that we're still young, and that may change. But even if it does, it would be very far in the future. I know all too well that things happen. People leave or fall down or die. And so, even if we got to the point of wanting to adopt, it would have to be when I'm financially stable enough that even alone I'll be able to support and care for a child without it being a major blow to my or the child's quality of life. Could you walk down the aisle by yourself? That was my sister's suggestion, when she said she was fine just being the maid of honor, but I rejected it. Because of her, I never walked alone on the worst days of my life, so I'm definitely not going to walk alone on the happiest. Your sister is amazing. She is, as far as I'm concerned, the definition of strength and love, and I'm collecting all the kind things you have said to show her because she doesn't realize how amazing she is, and it's a goddamn crime. Please update us. I absolutely will. You've given me a lot to think about, including underlying motivations and larger implications. I'm going to be taking a few days to sit with that and with myself and my feelings, but I promise to make an update about how I've decided to move forward. And absolutely, reading the story, your sister sounds bloody wonderful. You had me in tears reading that, and the way that you talk about her, and the way that you acknowledge she gave up large parts of her life for you. I think it's absolutely wonderful. What a great sister. And I've only known a couple of minutes of your story there, which you've told me. And I can tell you, if I was in your husband's position, I'd be backing you up. Whatever comes, I'd be backing you up to say, yes, absolutely, have your sister at your side, because that's an important person to you. I wouldn't try to overrule that. I wouldn't be trying to, get you to change your mind because that my mum and dad don't agree with it or whatever, and father-in-law should be the one to give you away. You do what's right for you, what's in your heart with your sister and knowing your story. And I can't help but think, right or wrong, it just gives me a real bad vibe of what you might be marrying into at the moment, especially with your husband not backing you on something that I think myself is incredibly important to you. But Jay Blazarian's pillow says, tell your mother-in-law that your father-in-law can walk your fiance down the aisle if he wants to give someone away. Or better yet, strongly consider not marrying into this family because they are the arseholes. ETA, not the a-hole. Holy comments, Batman. I was not expecting so many replies, and thank you for the awards. Little Lion says in quotes that it wasn't appropriate for her to walk me down the aisle since that's usually done by a man, and then says just because something is done one way does not mean it cannot be done in a different way. This is very telling of how he sees gender roles. I have to question if other things like this have come up in the duration of your relationship. Does he help with housework, laundry, dishes, or do you do them because they are woman chores? Not the a-hole, and I would die on this hill. Opie replies and says he does. I'm currently in med school in addition to working, so I don't have a lot of free time. So he actually does a lot of chores at home on the weekdays, and he even loves cooking. He does have some performative masculinity hang-ups, like he would never use something that's pink or let me pay the entirety of a shared meal. Either we split or he pays, but nothing aggressive or misogynistic. And one more comment from Beneficial Yak, who says, if you haven't already done it, you both need to sit down and have a frank talk about how you see the future. Get answers about your career. With hypotheticals like, I have to work X shifts, so won't be home until late, or I'll need to go across the country for my residency. Find out what he expects from you working and what happens if you have children. This is one of the most important conversations that need to happen before you file the marriage paperwork. It's not at all romantic, but it needs to happen. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? A lot of people saying this would be it for them. Other people saying, this can work, but needs serious discussion. How would you feel in that situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you, as always, for joining me today, getting involved in the stories, not just showing your love towards me, the channel, but towards each other down in the comments. It means so much to me that I see we have a wonderful community of people who's willing to support each other through so much. I often get emails, private messages telling me, and a certain member has been wonderful to another member, and I think it's incredible. So thank you for being you, truly, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.